How's it going, y'all? Fave with you. Oh, I just dropped my smokes. Hold on. But today, we're going to be smoking a cigarette as I give y'all a mini review of the movie Obsession. But I got a cigarette right here, all ready to go. So let's spark up and discuss, shall we? So I went to go watch this movie, Obsession, about, I want to say 2 weekends ago now. And I was pleasantly surprised. Now, this is a movie I had been wanting to watch for a while, since it had came out about a month ago or so, I would say now. And looking at how things are going, apparently they're extending the time it's going to be in theaters. So if you haven't watched it, I definitely do recommend. But along with that, like, I am a pretty big horror fan, and I would consider it a horror, but it's kind of like a more psychological horror than not. And honestly, I did find it a little more funny than anything as well. So there's that. Now, I won't get too much into the plot here, but basic premises, this guy, he makes a wish, and basically he gets a little more than what he bargained for. But if you haven't seen it, like I said, I definitely do recommend it. If it means anything, like I said, I am a pretty big horror fan. But as of these, I feel like as of these days, it's a bit of a different story. But if you were to ask me about like 5 to 10 years ago, it's kind of hard to like run into a good horror movie, or something that makes you feel like uneasy, or really anything for that matter. But since this had came out, I really was wanting to check it out, so I'm glad I did. I went with some buddies, and it was a pretty good viewing experience, I would say, overall. But yeah, like I said, I won't get too much into the plot here, but basically, you got to be careful what you wish for type deal. And but along with that, I have thought about recently getting more into reviews of such, as I, of course, smoke a cigarette out here and enjoy the nature and whatnot. It is a little more hot than not outside today, but nothing too crazy, fortunately, But yeah, man, this movie, it just kind of, it gives you, for me at least, it's one of those movies where, like, a character's kind of like doing something that, like, you don't really agree with, but it's kind of hard to like do that in a movie, for me at least, because I mean, sometimes you can only do so much till like you kind of find it annoying. But this movie has a way of like keeping you on the edge of your seat type deal. Like, oh, what is he thinking in this instance, or what's about to go down type deal. Like, I wonder what he's thinking at this moment. But overall, like I said, it was a pretty good movie, and I definitely do recommend if you haven't watched it yet. Like I said, they are extending the time it has in theaters, so what a better time than any, And like I said, I did check it out about like 2-3 weekends after it had came out, and the theater was still packed. So I mean, that lets you know something, right? But along with that, I have been wanting to watch The Back Rooms. I haven't gotten around to it, but once I do, I'll report back to you guys and see how that one turned out. I'm hoping I'm able to catch it soon enough. But yeah, but along with that, like I said, I do want to do a little more reviews movie wise. Like, I got this shirt on today, one of my favorite horror villains, you could say. The first one's my favorite of all time, the classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. That's my second favorite movie of all time. But if y'all want to hear the first, then we'll discuss some other time. But yeah, like I said, movie reviews, music reviews as well, I've thought about. I have been checking out more albums and whatnot here and there. I am an album listener, if I do say so myself. A lot of people, or I have ran into people more recently than not that say they don't really like checking out albums in their entirety. They're more of like a shuffle and listen type of person. And like, I get it, but if I want to check out a new artist or a band I hadn't heard before, I like to, you know, put on an album and see what they're working with and whatnot. But back to this movie. So like I said, nothing too crazy to discuss. It is a mini review, just till I'm done with this cigarette. But it was a really good viewing experience if you haven't gotten around to watching it. And so there's this thing called the One-Wish Wall. What was it called? The Wishing Wall? Something like that. It's called something. But anyway, there's like a horror shop I frequent here and there. I wouldn't say frequent, but I do get around to it. And they have some there, and I kind of want to get one. I don't know if I'd probably break it once I dial down my wish if I really want one. Or I might just keep it in the box. Who knows? But like I said, it is one of those things, one of those movies. You got to be careful what you wish for. And it's an interesting premise. I can't say I've seen like another movie like it type deal. You know, it has its own thing going on. And along with that, it was made by a content creator, you know, like a YouTube creator of sorts. Along with that, you know, like the Backrooms kind of has the same thing going on for it. You know, the kid's like 20 years old that made the Backrooms, and he's kind of the one that expanded the lore of the whole thing. Sorry, my hands are shaky. I'm kind of getting tired of holding this thing. But you know, it's crazy. I like how innovative these guys are. Along with that, you know, like you got the Raka Raka guys. They're like 2 movies in. What is it? Talk to Me and Bring Her Back. I've seen both, and they were actually really good. You know, like these guys that have experience in like, you know, just content creating, you know, like YouTube and whatnot. They seem to have a premise of like, you know, and from what I've seen, they tend to go for the horror side of things. And I can't say I've seen a bad one yet, so I got to see what the Backrooms is looking like. But we're just about done with our smoke here. That was my mini review of Obsession. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Like I said, I didn't delve too far into it just because I don't want to give any spoilers of any kind, but the movie definitely kept me on at the edge of my seat. It was a good viewing experience, and I do recommend, if it means anything. Like I said, I am a horror fan. It does take a bit to please me when I'm watching a horror movie. And also, I do want to discuss this horror movie that I see on lists here and there. I ended up watching again recently, and it just didn't turn out as good as I had thought it was gonna be. I had watched it maybe once before, but I ended up watching again, and it wasn't that great. So if y'all want to hear about that, let me know, and I'll get back to y'all. But that was it for me. Hope y'all have a good day, and I'll catch y'all on the flip. Deuces.